So in this segment, we're going to be discussing I think it's a Tory minister, Hugh Merriman, admitting to something I probably would not admit to, which is the strikes have actually, not giving the rail workers a pay rise, and the subsequent strikes have actually cost the UK more money than if it was the other way around, or if we actually gave them a pay rise. So let's listen to what he's got to say.
We had the head of the rail companies before us last week, who acknowledged the RMT's figure as to what the strikes have cost the government so far. In fact, he went even further and said it was anywhere between 300 and 500 million. So we're talking of a cost to the government of over $1 billion so far. I mean,
so what you've got to remember is these strikes are costing the economy. So because people can't go out, some people can't get to work, etc. So it does cost the economy. On top of that, the government are subsidising the railway companies. So any losses that would have been incurred, the government are covering those potential losses. So it's costing the government even more. So it's a double hit on the exchequer. So that's something that's definitely worth remembering, that these strikes have a double cost. In effect, I'm not blaming the striking workers for that. They absolutely do deserve a pay rise, but on top of that, they do deserve better working conditions, no forced redundancies, and also making sure routine maintenance does happen and the staff for routine maintenance is not cut. That's something that Eddie Dempsey has spoken about in weeks gone by. He's repeatedly spoken about it, actually. I think that needs a lot more media coverage, because this is far beyond just about wages here. But we'll carry on.
I mean, that would easily be enough money to have solved this dispute months ago, wouldn't it?
So if you look at it in that particular lens, then absolutely it's actually ended up costing more than it would have than it would have been the case if it just settled in that part. But again,
I mean, bro, I would not have admitted that, because that's something that Eddie Dempsey and Mick Lynch are going to run with. That's what they wanted to hear. You know, this government has spent more money fighting off the strikes than they would have done just giving the workers a pay rise. And on top of that, that pay rise money would have gone back into the economy. You would have had workers with more money who could have spent more money in the economy and helped to fuel growth. Genuine madness. And you would have had workers with job stability as well, which would have meant mentally they're a lot happier, but also it's less people you'd have to pay welfare to. And it's just madness. Why would he admit this? And here we go.
Again, we have to look at the overall impact on the public sector pay deals that are going across. And we also have to look on the ability for the reforms that don't often get talked about, but they're absolutely vital.
So we spoke about the, quote, reforms, the modernisations, which effectively will make, trains way more dangerous and cause long-term mental health damage to the workers in those fields, who will do a lot more unsociable hours. He speaks about that. He talks about the pay deals. It's because the government knows if they give any decent pay rises to any one sector, the other striking workers, the other disgruntled workers will use that as leverage in their negotiations to say, you've given the railway workers, say, a 9% pay rise. We also want a 9% pay rise because that's what we deserve, which is true. The fact is public sector pay has been way below inflation and way below private sector pay for a long time now in terms of the growth rate. The government have given public sector workers consistently below average pay rises. I think it's around the 10% figure, somewhere around there, whilst MPs, they've been getting pay rises. They got above inflation pay rises. It turns out that their pay is 3% lower than it was, I think, in 2010, but 3% is way lower than 7%, especially given the fact that their pay is significantly higher than the vast majority of public sector pay workers. So for Hugh Merriman to admit this genuinely is a bit stupid. I'm surprised he didn't go with the classic government of I don't recognise those figures, or I don't respect the premise. But for some dumb reason, he just straight admitted it. And maybe it's because he's in a select committee and he's amongst other MPs and he can be prosecuted if he does lie here. But all he'd have to say is I reject the premise of that. But he didn't. He said it's true that if the government had settled with the workers, it would have been way cheaper for the government to have done that. But this lot are a bunch of morons. Admitting that is moronic, but going down the route the government has done, combating workers, is also moronic. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.